Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Layla Sharif, and I'm the president of CCMW-Scarborough chapter. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the land we're standing on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Vedda peoples. And it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed by the multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Miigwech, thank you. On behalf of our members and myself, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. We're honored by your presence. As a Muslim woman in Scarborough, we saw the need to establish the CCMW chapter that will assist in developing leaders, empowering women, and impacting policies that affect us all in Scarborough. We knew that there is a need to reach out to the other communities and introduce CCMW. We believe that engagement and to start a dialogue is the way forward and necessary. Just last week, we celebrated the International Women's Day. It's a global day, celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. Happy International Women's Day. We are truly grateful to our distinguished guest speakers for being with us tonight, and a special thank you to our CCMW Executive Director, Nozat Jaffrey, and the President, Nina Karachi Khalid. I also want to say a special thank you to our members, Saima, Mona, Nina, and Hanan, for helping in organizing this event. We have a great event organized tonight for you all. So it is with my great pleasure to welcome CCMW Executive Director, Nozat Jaffrey, to say a few words. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for organizing this wonderful night tonight. I wanted to just give you a brief overview of the history of the CCMW, the Canadian Council of Muslim Women. Way back in 1982, so almost 40 years now, a group of dynamic and devout Muslim women from across the country congregated in Winnipeg, Manitoba. They were led by the late Dr. Lila Fallman. And these women sought to mobilize their passion for social justice and faith to enrich their communities and work towards the common good of Canadian society. They realized that they just couldn't be part of the Council of Muslim Communities of Canada. They needed something for women alone. This inaugural meeting led to the establishment of what we now know as CCMW. And for the past 39 years, it's been proud and accomplished. We are proud of our accomplished roster of members, including now today, 17 chapters. We've achieved and continue to achieve great milestones for Muslim women, and we enhance Canada's multicultural landscape. A highly diverse organization, CCMW is firmly committed to the overarching vision of improving the status of women and empowering Muslim women to remain true to their Islamic heritage and their Canadian identity. The CCMW is dedicated, like I said, to the empowerment, equality, and equity of all Muslim women in Canada. And our mission is to affirm the identities of Canadian Muslim women and to promote their lived experiences through community engagement, public policy, stakeholder engagement, and amplified awareness of the social injustices that Muslim women and girls endure in Canada while advocating for their diverse needs. And we try to equip our local CCMW chapters with the necessary resources to maximize national efforts and to mobilize their local communities to join the movement. We're so proud to have a chapter in Scarborough. It's been a long time coming. And I'm going to introduce Nuzhat, who is a former Scarboroughian, a very proud one too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. So yes, as Nina said, I am a Scarboroughian. I spent my early teens into my university years in Scarborough. I went to high school there. My brother and sister went to elementary school and secondary school there. And my parents lived there until, when was it? About 5 years ago, when they when my father passed away. So we had a home in Scarborough since 1968. My parents moved there from another neighborhood that's quite famous, actually, Thorncliffe Park, in 1968. So it was our home for a long time. So Scarborough is very near and dear to me. And I'm very glad that you're launching a Scarborough chapter. So thank you, Leila, and your team for having the foresight to actually have a chapter there, because it's one of the most diverse parts of the city of Toronto. And I'm going to take over from Nina, where she gave you some broad kind of mission and vision of our organization, and give you some examples of the kinds of projects that CCMW undertakes. So they're not just projects, they're also ongoing programs and activities that we've been engaged in. And we only do these things because we believe that Canadian Muslim women have a unique set of needs. They are different from other women of faith because of their Islamic heritage. And our aim is to do whatever we can to improve their lives, improve the lives of the women themselves and their families and the girls. So just to give you some examples of the kinds of projects that we have currently running, we have the Digital Anti-Racism Education project, and that's focusing on countering hate, racism, and Islamophobia on the online space, cyberspace. And then we've been doing some research to identify barriers to labor market participation and health of Canadian Muslim women. We're also running a really exciting pilot program. It's the Legal Services Coordination Pilot Program that actually our good friend Sabrine runs, whom you've met. And then we have 2 or 3 sort of premier activities. So we have an annual campaign. It's the Women Who Inspire Awards. So we invite nominations for inspiring Canadian Muslim women. And we're about to launch the call for nominations very soon. So we have an annual awards event. Also, we have a scholarship program, the Dr. Lila Falman Scholarship Program. Dr. Lila Falman was the founder of the Canadian Council of Muslim Women. Another great initiative that provides scholarships to Muslim women and girls who want to pursue post-secondary education. We also provide family law education programs. And there's lots and lots of materials on our website. So we have toolkits on engaging men and boys to prevent violence in the family. We have many other resources that you can use actually to deliver workshops, to share with community members. So please do visit our website if you haven't already visited it. It's www.ccmw.com. And there's a specific page for the Scarborough chapter for you to share your resources and activities with others. I want to tell you about a very exciting event that's coming up in partnership with the Aga Khan Museum and the Global Center for Pluralism. It's actually in recognition of International Women's Day, but the broadcast is actually going to happen on the 22nd of March. And the title is Reflections in Art and Design, Canadian Muslim Women's Perspective. And you're going to love it because we're going to be featuring 3 incredibly talented women. You know, architect, one is an architect, the other is a curator, and the other one is an amazing performer. So please join us for that. There are many other things we can tell you about, but I know you're waiting impatiently to hear from all our other guests. So thank you for giving us this time to tell you a little bit about CCMW.
Thank you very much, Nina and Nazat, and thank you for coming tonight. Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
I have to put a plug in because it's going to get sold out. So, you know, we introduced these Muslim Women Scholars series, And the last one sold out, within 2 days. We have another one coming up, which is on sexuality, secularism, and Islam. Another Muslim scholar focusing on women. Her name is Sadaf Jaffer. So if you haven't bought your tickets, get them now, because we get sold out really fast. Sorry. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. So please make sure you go. It's on the website. Make sure you go and purchase your tickets. Okay. I shall now hand over to our very able master of ceremonies, Hanan. Many of you already know her, but let me tell you what an incredible young lady she is. Hanan Nana is a student at the Ryerson University, majoring in politics and governance and minoring in law. She is the founder of BAM Collectives, a youth-led collective in Ontario and New York that aims to empower equity-deserving young individuals through art and community engagement. Currently, she is the Executive Vice President of the Politics and Governance Association at Ryerson and the Outreach Coordinator for Syrian Canadian Foundation. She is the Managing Editor of the Refugee Experience Cluster at the Ryerson University and an advisory committee member of Promising Practices and Accessing Virtual Mental Health, Supporting Refugees During COVID-19 project. She is an ambassador to the IRCNF OCSI campaign, Immigrant and Refugee Communities, Neighbors, Friends, and Families, to raise awareness and promote action to end domestic violence. In 2019, she was chosen to be one of the Daughters of the Vote, representing the federal riding of Scarborough-Gilwood in Ottawa. Hanan is also a co-founder of Starter Kit Project. The project was created to discuss various pathways and find solutions to problems faced by those wanting to attend post-secondary education specific to the newcomer's needs. She has worked for the City of Toronto on multiple local and international organizations, such as Welcome TO, United Nations High Commission for Refugee, and International Blue Crescent. She's also a Vice President of the CCMW-Scarborough chapter. Please welcome Hanan.
Thanks so much, Leila. This was absolutely great. And thanks everyone for taking the time to join us tonight. But before we get started, I wanted to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to our amazing president, Leila, for establishing the chapter and for putting a lot of time and effort to create this event. I will read Leila's bio for those who didn't meet Leila before, just to learn more about the inspiration story. Leila, born in Kabul, Afghanistan. She's the daughter of an Afghan politician diplomat. She was educated in Germany, Turkey, Pakistan, Japan, and Russia, earning her master in pedagogy and linguistics from Kyiv State University, Ukraine, former USSR. She has completed the Refugee Issues Certificate program from York University's Center for Refugee Studies. Leila is also a very active member of the community and a supporter of a vast array of community-based organizations. She currently serves as a member of the Historica Dominion Institute, Speakers Bureau, board member of the 43 Division Community Police Liaison Community. Leila also worked for the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organizations Literacy Campaign in Kabul, Afghanistan for 6 years. Speaks different languages, English, Persian, Farsi, Russian, and a bit of German. She has been working for the House of Commons since 1997. Leila is a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal and also a recipient of the 5 years volunteer service pin with the Toronto Police Service 43 Division. She has a 20 years of service at the House of Commons Award, and she is also a handmade jewelry designer and acrylic painter. Wow, such an inspiration, Leila. Thanks so much for all the work that you do in our community and for bringing us together tonight. And I'm reading the comments, so you're an inspiration to everyone. And tonight, we are joined with amazing speakers that will share their inspiring story, and I'm pretty sure these stories will stay with you forever. So I would like to introduce now our amazing speakers. We are joined tonight by Selma Zahid, who is the Member of Parliament for Scarborough Centre since 2015, and she's a committee champion for gender equality and a strong voice for the diverse families of Scarborough. Selma is a chair of the standing committees on citizenship and immigration, and a member of the standing Committee on the Status of Women. In her work on these committees, she has worked to ensure the voice of racialized Canadians and visible minorities women are heard and has advocated for improved customer services within the immigration. I have to go back quickly to my document, sorry, within the immigration system and for increased family unification. Salma, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us here tonight. Thank you, Salma.
Thank you, Hanan. Really hearing so much about you from Laila. This gives me peace. Seeing youth, young Muslim women like this gives me an assurance that our future is really in good hands, and gives me that faith that yes, we are there. And big congratulations to Lala Sharif for being the president of the Scarborough chapter. I knew about her talents working in House of Commons, but I didn't know about her other talents. So it's good to know many hidden talents of Lala. She's an integral part of our Scarborough team, and I have known Lala even before I was member of parliament, as a community member, as a person who has always been there for the community. And I tell you, in regards to her work in House of Commons, I think the hand which she has at all the casework of immigration, no one can beat her here in Scarborough. So we are very lucky to have her in the Scarborough team, guiding and running not only Scarborough Gilwood constituency office, but she's always there to help the staff members from all the Scarborough offices. And I know many of my staff members, they interact with Lala and are always there to get her advice. So thank you, Lala, for taking this. And I really look forward to working with you to make sure that we can make this Scarborough chapter very successful. And thanks a lot to Nuzar Jaffrey and Nina Karachi Khalid for updating us about the programs and the projects which you are doing at the Canadian Council of Muslim Women. It's a great honor and joy for me to congratulate tonight all the members of the Canadian Council of Muslim Women, and especially those who are taking the leadership to start this Scarborough chapter. It is very appropriate that you have chosen this week, the week we have been celebrating International Women's Day, to launch your organization. I think it's high time for our Scarborough to be home for a chapter of one of country's leading organizations that is dedicated to the empowerment of Muslim women so that they can obtain equality and equity in the society. The Scarborough is a home to big Muslim community. So I think it's the need of the hour that we have the chapter here. 39 years ago, a group of dynamic Muslim women from across Canada, led by Dr. Leela Falham, laid the foundation for Canadian Council of Muslim Women. I know this diverse organization, the CCMW, has been always a beacon and inspiration already to countless Muslim women in Canada who have sought to improve their status while remaining true to their Islamic heritage. Personally, I look to the strong women in my life who have inspired me to achieve my dreams. In Canada, I think we see that in all walks of life, Muslim women are making a difference. In the government of Canada, I think we are blessed that we have the voice of Honorable Mariam Monsef on the cabinet table as the Minister for Gender Equality. Gender equality is at the forefront of our government's agenda. And I think it is really the way Minister Mariam Monsef has been there to talk about gender equality, understanding the perspective of a minority woman. I think that has helped us to raise awareness. Indeed, women should stand strong together and help one another so that we can live up to the words of the late Dr. Leela Falham, who said, "I believe in what I am doing, and I believe it should be done." In Canada, if we have to reach to our true potential, we have to encourage all women, no matter your ethnicity, your faith, or your language, to participate fully in Canadian life. Whatever your color, skin, or your faith, no young woman should be afraid to be herself, to stand up for her rights, to speak out and make her voice heard. A young girl should not be afraid to wear a hijab to school or onto a subway. And when we see someone being bullied, it is up to all of us to step up and say, no, this is wrong. I will always stand up for those young girls who want to wear a hijab, for those women who want to wear a hijab. I am the first woman in the history of Canada who spoke from the House of Commons in a hijab in 2018. We are very lucky that we have 4 Muslim women as members of parliament in the House of Commons out of 338 MPs. Myself, MP Ikra Khalid, MP Yasmin Ratansi, and of course, Honorable Maryam Monsef. I was when me and Ikra Khalid back in 2015 were the first Muslim women of the Pakistani origin to be elected as members of parliament. I came to Canada back in 1999 as a new immigrant. I have gone through all the ups and downs any immigrant family goes through. And I got involved in politics back in 2002 because I was fighting against cuts to education for my sons. That brought me into the political system. Before that, I had no idea how the Canadian system works and all that. But when I stood up as a chair of the school council back in 2002 to fight against cuts for education, brought me into the political. And I think that was the first step in politics. And what Laila is doing in John McKay's office, I remained a constituency assistant at George Smitherman's office, who was the member of provincial parliament in Toronto, developed a passion for me to be there for the community. When I heard firsthand the stories, the struggles people were going. So that's why in 2013, late 2013, I decided to throw my name into the hat and try to run as a liberal candidate for the riding of Scarborough Centre. It was not easy decision. It was not easy to get where I am today. But I think the upbringing, the values which I had, which my parents had instilled in me, and as we talk about International Women's Day, I think I should pay tribute to my mother also, who was a very strong believer of women education and making sure that her daughter is empowered and has the same opportunities in life as her 2 sons. And I'm very thankful to my father also, who played a big role in bringing me up here where I am today, although they are not here in my life now, but they have passed away. But I think their values guide me every day. So it was not easy, but I think I was very positive. I committed to myself that I will work hard in spite of many comments like that. Have all men died that a Muslim woman is running from here? Or how do you really think that being a Muslim woman, you can be a member of parliament? I think those remarks even motivated me greater. And I worked, and I was lucky with the support of my family and friends that I was elected in 2015. So I just want to convey to our youth like Hanan and everyone else who is watching that be positive, dream big, and you can achieve anything. We need Muslim women in politics. We need them at the decision-making tables, because the perspective which you can bring about the community, no one else can bring. We need all cultures to recognize the value, the contributions that women can make. In my own community, too often, this is not the case. This has to change. A woman's place is not just in the home. I'm a mother of 2 boys. It has been the most rewarding experience of my life, I can tell you. But woman's place is also in the boardrooms, in the school, and yes, a woman's place is also on the Parliament Hill. We need more minority women to step up and be the leaders. Whether it is running for office or volunteering in the school or at the community center, Canada needs all voices at the table. And to all the men who are watching this or who will watch this, I would not be here without the love and support of the men in my life, my father, my two brothers, my husband, and my two sons. We need them. So I think it is really very important that we educate our young boys, we educate the men that they need to uplift the woman and make sure that they are, other than being a mother, a wife, a sister, a spouse, they are needed in the community also. We want all our little girls and our little boys to grow up in a country and a world where they can achieve anything, and there are no limits to ambitions except how big we all can dream. So it is up to all of us to step up and help build a world which is inclusive, Canada which is inclusive. So let's continue the fight for more Muslim women in leadership positions in all walks of lives, whether it is business or politics, for equal pay, for equal work, for an end to gender-based violence and discrimination. Together, inshallah, we will achieve that and we will fight for equality because equality matters. So big thank you to all of you and congratulations. And I am really looking forward working with you, Leila and Hanan, to make sure that we can empower the Muslim women here in Scarborough. They are looking towards your leadership. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Salma. This is so inspiring. I remember I attended one of the panel discussions at Daughters of the Vote, and you were mentioning an important point there about how even like running for an office wasn't easy, and like even a lot of women when they run for an office, they lose at the first time. But that's the first step to success. So thanks for sharing your stories. We have questions prepared for you, but first I would like to invite my other speakers. And I would like to introduce our next panelist, Dr. Asma Zihanat Khan. She holds a PhD in international human rights law with a specialization in military interventions and war crimes in the Balkans. She writes the award-winning, and I apologize if I mispronounce the names, Isa Kahatag, Rachel Getty Mystery Series, and the critical acclaimed Khorasan Archives Fantasy Series. A Deadly Divide and the Blade Bones are her latest books, with her new Blackwater false crime series premiering in 2022. A British-born Canadian and a former Just Law professor, Khan now lives in Colorado with her husband. Welcome, Dr. Asma. And we're also joined by an amazing young woman, Mariam Fancy, who is a Master of Global Affairs candidate from the Monk School of the Global Affairs and Public Policy with a specialization in innovation. Mariam transitioned in working in tech after learning about the human rights and policy implications of technology. Quickly, she began to learn and research artificial intelligence ethics, which gave her the background knowledge of how artificial intelligence is designed, developed, and deployed. Presently, Mariam is working at two early-stage ventures, one in artificial intelligence and the other in blockchain, with the lens of researching and developing technology that is designed with a social impact and human right focus. Welcome, Mariam, and it's great to see you again. And finally, we're also so honored to be joined by Huda Amara, a licensed registered dietitian with the College of Dietitians of Ontario, with a background in health promotion, research, and public health. Huda is passionate about providing quality nutritional care to diverse clients and teaching people to both love and listen to their bodies. Amana Nutrition serves as an opportunity for her to largely provide her services for free or at a reduced rates to those in need. Welcome, and thanks so much again for taking the time to be with us here tonight. And we were talking about women in politics and leadership and policy making. And Selma, thanks for sharing your story about getting engaged and why you chose to run for an office. I wanted to ask you more specific about the challenge that you faced when you ran for an office. As Muslim and women, we know like it's not easy for us to run for an office. So what is the biggest challenge that you saw maybe in the system as the first hijabi Muslim woman in the House of Commons, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think the biggest challenge, Hanan, I would say, is that when I was trying to seek nomination in the riding of Scarborough Centre to be the Liberal candidate, it was not an easy process. And I tell you, what I realized after I was knocking doors, that many people, even from my community, like even from the Muslim community, never thought that there can be a Muslim woman, a member of parliament. Maybe they were not politically involved, or maybe at times, I think we think that, okay, like we came here as immigrants, okay, we can just do a job and 9 to 5 job, get a and so maybe these things are not for us. So I think the most difficult thing was try to make sure that the community understands, no, this is a land of opportunity. Opportunities are available and we can do this. So, but with time, I think now if I see like 6 years ago, if I go back and compare the community, they are much more motivated. They know the political system, because when I won in 2015, that gave them the assurance that,
Yes.
okay, yes, there is a path for people like us. And then they have been involved with me in the work which I do with the community. So many women came out in 2019 who I would have never thought that they would come out and be a part, like they would be knocking doors or making phone calls or working in a campaign office, because they saw in 4 years from 2015 to 2019 that how it helped the community and why it was important. And then they saw, yeah, like this is something we can do. So they played a much bigger role in 2019 campaign as compared to 2015 campaign. And I'm very lucky to have amazing women immigrants who have been always part of my team and being there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And Asma, shifting now from politics to writing, you wrote too many books. So tell us more about your experience. How were you motivated to become a writer? And I wanted to ask more specific question. What is your favorite book that you wrote? You're muted, Asma.
Can you hear me now? Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to be here. I've come to writing from a fairly checkered career where I have variously practiced immigration law, taught international human rights law, and for a time was the editor of a publication called Muslim Girl magazine. So I've been doing a number of different things along the way, but the thread of continuity in my work has always been my passion for human rights. And so when I've been writing fiction since I was a child, and Saima, who is my childhood friend, can attest to that as well, because she's been part of many plays and different things that our community put together when we were kids. But yes, I've always been writing on the side. And then I just came to a point where I'd been moving around a lot and was no longer eager to take the bar in every new location that I was in. And my husband said, just take some time now and try to get out the stories that you want to tell. So I did some thinking about that. What would I like to write? And I wanted to write novels that would allow me to write about human rights issues, global human rights issues, but at a very intimate and personal level. So I was first published in 2015, so not that long ago. And I now have 10 books out, nine are novels, and one is a middle grade book on Ramadan nonfiction. And so my crime series features a Canadian Muslim detective, a handsome, swoon-worthy detective, I hope, by the name of Isa Khatak. And he's from a background similar to myself. He's South Asian, he's Pakistani, he's Pashtun or Pathan, but he was born in Canada. And he works with his partner, Rachel Getty, to investigate crimes in minority communities. And so variously in my different books, my first book, my debut novel was The Unquiet Dead. I think I probably should have turned a light on, The Unquiet Dead. And it allowed me to write about an intimate story about a crime in Toronto that was really about the Bosnian genocide. And then the subsequent books in the series were books about terrorism, about the plight of political prisoners in places like Iran. The fourth book you might be interested in, Hanan, is about the Syrian refugee crisis specifically, and about Assad's war in Syria. And the most recent book is called A Deadly Divide, and it was inspired by the Quebec mosque shooting. So in those books, I'm thematically interested in issues of identity, belonging, exclusion, marginalization, but particularly focused on tensions between different communities in the West and the different ways in which Islamophobia manifests itself for our communities, and then how we as human beings in our personal and political lives and public lives deal with those issues. So that's what I do in my crime series. And then in my fantasy series, the first book in the Khorasan archives is called The Blood Print. And that series is complete now. It's a 4-book series. And it was me looking inward to problems within our own communities. from the perspective of a practicing Muslim woman. So you have this dystopian world, some 1,000 years in the future, set along a broken Silk Road, which encompasses the histories of parts of South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East, and parts of North and West Africa. And it's a journey between and a quest about the battle between ignorance and knowledge and feminist ideology versus patriarchy. So I put the great touchstones of the Islamic civilization and Islamic mythology basically in the hands of women. And they use their Quranic tradition to fight these battles of swords and sorceries and magic and so on. But they fight them with the Quran in their hands, essentially. So it's been just a labor of love writing these novels, some of them looking outward to the West, some of them looking internally to the extremist fringe within Islam and how we combat it, and being able to talk about those things. I think out of all my books, it's hard to say if you have a favorite, but from an artistic point of view, I think the best written book is Among the Ruins, which was my third book, set partially in Canada, set partially in Iran. And it allowed me to explicate the great Iranian political philosophical tradition, the Iranian history with democratic experiments, and to talk about the stolen election of 2009 and the rise of the Green Movement. And that was just wonderful material for a crime novel, but also historically. So kind of a long answer, but there you go.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And I didn't know that you wrote a book about Al-Assad. I'm a war survivor and I used to live in Syria. So I look forward to reading that book. Thanks for sharing. And we're moving now to technology. And I would like to invite Mariam to tell us more about your story and what encouraged you to get involved in technology, especially after learning about human rights. So tell us more about your experience and in specific, the artificial intelligence.
For sure. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, I have to say, I think it's so cool that I'm on a panel with Asma, because I grew up with her and obviously she's my mom's, like, one of her best childhood friends. So like being on a panel with Asma Kala is like amazing. But in terms of how I got involved in artificial intelligence from human rights, I've been involved in human rights since I was 13, majority of it from a Canadian perspective, focusing on understanding reconciliation and how that manifests itself between non-Indigenous and Indigenous communities. So I was raised in the human rights space by listening and learning from Indigenous leaders and Indigenous grassroots advocates. And that was a really amazing platform to understand grassroots advocacy. And so a lot of my work and my studies was focused on that. I did my undergraduate degree in peace, conflict, and justice. Similar to Asma, I focused on war and I studied war for 4 years. But of course, technology like artificial intelligence, facial recognition technology is all used as weapons of war. And so prior to going into my Master's of Global Affairs, I was trying to understand how can I build tools, because technology is not neutral. Technology does not exist silo to the patriarchy, to the power structures that we exist in. And so I wanted to understand how technology is a tool for human rights and how can we build technology that can actually assist marginalized and racialized communities. And that doesn't happen as often as we would hope. And so I spent the summer basically teaching myself about artificial intelligence and kind of launched myself into different communities. So I'm a researcher at the Montreal AI Ethics Institute, where I work mainly on divulging into the governance and regulation of artificial intelligence. I also am a blockchain researcher, and that's one of the ventures where basically we're building a blockchain application at Stanford University to verify the evidence put forward by those who witness human rights violation. So a lot of the issues when human rights advocates bring forward primary evidence to court is the fact that courts do not recognize that evidence as primary. So what we do is that we're building not necessarily a verification tool, but an ability to verify the authenticity of the media that they're bringing forward, whether that be through photos or videos. And so either way, I've been trying to exist in technology in the human rights lens and understanding how technology is not a tool that's going to save us, because it's not. It's a tool that actually mirrors our biases. It's a tool that I think a lot of people don't want to admit, but it is not much different than the power structures that we exist in today. And it really matters. And what I'm interested in is how and who is governing those technologies. And so that's how I work in tech. And AI is where I started. Blockchain is where I continued. And then I also did a summer research project on quantum technology and how that's being developed. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
This is awesome. Thanks so much, Mariam. And I remember like 2 years ago, I used to attend a lot of events that were organized by Mariam. So it's inspiring to hear your story and how you are shifting now to that field. Huda, tell us more about yourself, and maybe like I'm really interested to learn more about your experience in health, because I used to study sciences and it was a different experience than mine, of course, and now in politics. Describe your career in one word and tell us what motivated you to be a dietitian.
That's a very interesting question. I think if I were to describe it in one word, it would probably be surprising, and not just from the content of my profession and what it tends to entail, which is food and healthy eating and things like that, but with regards to my own journey towards it as well. I started off just like Haneen had said with regards to her own journey. I started off in sciences, and I come from a community where I think you're either a lawyer or a doctor and nothing else exists. And so that was my goal, and that was kind of my career trajectory. And I really liked that. I did a lot of biopharmaceutical research. I was very lucky to start that at a very young age. I was really only 17 when I got my first job in a lab. And then I realized that my interest in biopharmaceuticals wasn't necessarily the chemicals that can be extracted from food to be used to make certain drugs for treating certain ailments. It was instead the very holistic idea of food itself. So where does food come from? How can the foods that certain people be eating allow for them to feel healthier and to feel better? So it's very surprising, I would say, because I had that background in the sciences, but I also was very lucky, alhamdulillah, to be growing in a household with a very strong and independent and feminist mother who really ingrained in me the importance of human rights. So when you guys were mentioning that, I was almost like, wow, subhanAllah, it seems like we all have some sort of thread that links back to that main concept. And she was really a huge proponent for social justice. She taught me from a very young age about things like, for instance, I don't know if anyone remembers, but in the 90s in Ontario, there was this huge strike, teacher strike. And I was only in kindergarten, but my mom sat me down and was like, do you know why you're not going to school? This is why you're not going to school. And so, alhamdulillah, I'm very lucky I grew up like that. And it ended up shaping this understanding, at least in my head, that science is important, health is important, but social justice and human rights is important too. And it really all does link together. And that's something that unfortunately, at least in the field that I'm in, I can't speak for anyone else's, is not necessarily recognized very well. Healthcare practitioners unfortunately don't get that knowledge base. They don't get that support, especially from the higher ups that they have. And so I'm very lucky that I'm able to bring that to my space. I'm very lucky and very fortunate to have researched social justice from the perspective of making the field that I'm in very diverse. It's really important to have a diverse field of healthcare practitioners that can reflect the population they're serving. And so that's something that I alhamdulillah had the chance to work on and research. Spoiler alert, my field is not very diverse at all, unfortunately. So alhamdulillah, we've been involved in being able to sort of put a marker on that, a spotlight on that, so that we can try to make that something that can be addressed in future years. I've also, alhamdulillah, been very lucky to work on this social justice idea from the lens of public health. And alhamdulillah, that's kind of allowed for me to have a real understanding of where these issues in health come from. It's really great, of course, to have a Muslim community that has a lot of people working in medicine and in other fields where they're sort of treating people who are coming into the hospital with certain diseases. But there needs to also be that light bulb moment where you're thinking, why are these people coming into the hospital? There are socioeconomic barriers and there are human rights violations. There are a lot of issues going on, and people don't realize that even in this country that are causing people to be going into the hospitals at the rates that they're going to now. And that's been really highlighted, I think, with COVID, because we're seeing COVID rates being higher in certain communities. So alhamdulillah, I was able to work on sort of trying to figure out how to establish public policy that can create environments and systems that will allow for children, which is where it really starts. So children to eat well, feel well, and then in effect grow well. And at the moment, after I've done that work, I work more in community spheres now because I just like talking to people, and sitting behind a desk isn't really my thing. And I'm able to sort of talk with them one-on-one, deliver a lot of classes to Muslim kids and Muslim adults, as well as various members of the Toronto community, and helping them to eat better, to feel better, and to love their bodies. And so being here today and being able to talk to you guys after studying sciences as a really young child, and then growing up to get my master's and my other bachelor's in nutrition is really great. It's really nice to be able to talk to you all and to, inshallah, be a part of something really great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Huda. I'm reading the comments. Everyone's saying you're so inspiring. So thanks so much for taking the time to be with us and to inspire us and sharing your stories. And now I'll go back to Selma. It feels like it's been a while with like our panelists. So Selma, you when we were reading your bio, it was mentioned that you are a member of different committees, the standing committees of the status of women, and you're working to ensure our voice as marginalized communities and visible minority women are heard. What do you find the most rewarding about this position, like being in politics as a woman, a Muslim woman?
Thank you, Hanan. And I think the work which I am doing, and with my background, I can talk about what issues our community faces, what issues Muslim women face. So I'm a member of the Standing Committee on Citizenship. I'm the chair of the Citizenship Immigration Committee, and I am a member at the Standing Committee for Status of Women. I was vice chair in the last mandate on that also. So when we talk about for example, just recently we have been talking about the impact of COVID-19 on women, and it has adversely affected women. But if you go even further, it has even adversely affected like minority women, racialized women, indigenous women, Muslim women. So I think it is important that we bring that perspective to the table and make sure that when we work on recommendations in that report, or which will go to the government, that perspective is there. In my community, I see a lot of intergenerational homes. So I have seen in this pandemic that women have been adversely affected because they had to play so many roles in an intergenerational family. They have been the caregivers of their parents, and because their parents cannot go out, or long-term cares, people are not feeling comfortable sending their parents if they were planning, if the parents were in that age group where they were thinking that maybe they will shift them there. They have been the caregivers of the parents. They have been the teachers of their kids, because kids have been working online. So a lot of burden is on their shoulders, and many women have lost their job. See, many immigrant women have been working on the low-paid jobs. I see in my community, many were working at restaurants, many were working at grocery stores, many. So those are the sectors which have been hit very hard. So it is really very important that we have Muslim women in politics, so that they can bring the perspective, the issues which the Muslim community faces, which the Muslim women face. So I think that is very much needed in politics. So I would encourage more women to be involved. Volunteer with your candidates in your respective ridings. Volunteer with your elected representatives. So I think that is very much needed. And like my advice to all the young girls who are there, it's inspiring to see Huda and Mariam in their fields. I think we need Muslim women in all walks of life. And Muslim women have played a very important role in this pandemic. They have been like the doctors, the nurses, the teachers in the business field. Everyone has stepped up and have been there for the community. So I think we need that perspective, and that is long overdue. We need more representation in politics from the Muslim women.
Of course, thanks so much for this incredible advice, and I definitely like echo what you said. Volunteering is very important just to get engaged, because the road is long for us, but we got this, and we just need to make the right connection to be able to run for an office or apply for jobs, or even just share our voice and stories. Now I'll go back to you, Mariam. You were talking about the ventures that you're part of. When you are working in technology and in this field, do you find any challenges as a Muslim woman? If so, what are the challenges and how do you overcome these challenges?
I think tech is often reflective of all the stereotypes, unfortunately. In the short period I've been in it, and it's only been 2 years, and that's often because I like to pivot quite quickly. I do see a lot of the issues that a lot of women have reported, and I think the case of Timnit Gubru is a really great one to refer to. The fact is that women are often marginalized in these spaces. Of course, BIPOC women are marginalized in these spaces, but also there's not discussions on how to support women, especially Black women in tech. And I think that definitely needs to be a discussion to be had in the tech field. And like honestly, just the fact is that the conversation pieces are not as dynamic as they should be, especially around equity in technology. And it's a big barrier and a weakness, I would say, in a divide, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. Because like I said before, AI is a mirror of society. It's not this revolutionary piece of technology that's going to solve all of our problems. The biases that are exhibited, the forms of discrimination, the consequences and impacts are due to those who build it, right? We cannot imagine, or we have a hard time of imagining a future that is beyond the structures that we exist in and the ones that we built for ourselves, that although we have not voluntarily agreed to be in, are built, and we communities, especially BIPOC communities, are often advocating against. But they're not the communities that are being exhibited in the rooms that are designing AI, or in the rooms that are deploying artificial intelligence. And because of that, we've seen the gaps when it comes to the regulation of AI, to the design of it as well. So I think there's a lot to be done. It's a bit exhausting to be in these spaces. And I think that's a really important point as well, right? Like we're paving a path for those to follow, but resiliency is a very exhausting method to move forward on. And I hope that changes in the future. And I know as women, especially, we have to be resilient to much more than just what we experience in our field. But again, just going back to tech, I think a lot of the issues that we've heard are exhibited, and I've been facing them, but I've been trying to find new ways to resolve conflict, to have those discussions, and to build a better future. And really being a part of that is one way to do it, but spaces definitely need to be had and they need to be carved out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mariam. And my last question for you is, in one sentence, what's your best advice that you want to give to those who are interested to go in tech?
You don't need a tech background to be in tech. And I actually highly, 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 highly suggest, if you do not have a tech background, like go into it. And the reason why is because we need sociologists, we need philosophers, we need people who are artists, we need singers, we need musicians who are in tech, right? I'm going to be working on a project that uses natural language processing, and who works on natural language processing? Speech pathologists, right? Like they have those expertise of understanding, why do certain communities use certain dialects? Why do certain communities have this understanding of different words, right? Like this comes from history, it comes from diasporic studies. Those who are in tech, specifically from a technical background, yes, they need to be there, but they need to be in partnership with others like ourselves, right? Like we may not have that technical computer science background, but that doesn't mean that the need is not there. I think that need is going to be increasingly going to be seen, and we're going to see a lot more positions. But I would say if you have an interest and you definitely want to see the impact that technology can have through your field, it can happen for sure, without a doubt. It's just a matter of finding the community, and like myself and others are happy to help you to get there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mariam. And I'll go back again to you, Osma. And you mentioned that you served as an editor in chief of Muslim Girl magazine, and it was the first magazine to address a target of young Muslim women, and it was reshaping the conversation about Muslim women in North America. So tell us more about this experience. How did you empower young Muslim women in this magazine?
Well, thanks for that question. It was a very exciting and dynamic time being involved with that project. And essentially what we did was reach out to girls and to women. First, we came up with an editorial vision that would reflect the diversity of our communities, and in as many places, in as many spaces as possible within the magazine. We had columns written by girls, columns written by women about issues that affected them most. And then we reached out into Muslim communities through colleges, through schools, through sports organizations, through mosques, to highlight a Muslim girl of the month and also a Muslim woman of the month who could be a role model to girls for a particular profession. So for example, we had a woman doctor from Afghanistan was one of our women of the month as a role model for girls to see that you could become a doctor even in very difficult circumstances and serve your community and be a voice for empowerment and change. And once we featured Michelle Hussein, who was a BBC news anchor for girls who were interested in journalism, to talk about her path and some of the barriers that she faced. So these were kind of the unique challenges that we had. The important thing was to keep the stories as true to our community as possible and not to speak in one singular voice about the Muslim community, but to understand that there are many points of views, many different theologies within Islam, many different cultural parameters to how people live their faith, and to reflect all of that, we hoped, in its fullness.
Awesome, thanks so much. And again, like the same question that I asked Mariam, what's your advice to Muslim women that are interested to be inspiring writers?
So if you're interested in writing fiction, I think the most important thing that you can do is to read as widely as possible. And specifically, if you're interested in genre fiction, to read in the genre that you want to write. So that, for example, if you want to become a crime novelist, you've watched a lot of crime TV, because TV teleplays are like, they're like novels, shorter novels, and you watch construction in that way, but you also read a lot of mystery and crime novels and thrillers to see how is plot developed, how is character developed, how is pacing done. And the more you read, the more you're imbibing not only vocabulary, but technique and craft. So that's number one. And then the second thing is there's lots of material out there, such as a big Bible of a book called The Writer's Market, that tells you that publishing is a business like any other. And for someone who wants to be in that business, they should educate themselves on step one, from writing a manuscript to querying it with an agent, to getting it to submitting it to a publisher, and then how to negotiate a deal. But yeah, my number one piece of advice is always you need to read a lot. It makes you a better writer.
I agree. Thanks so much, Asma. And my last question of this panel is to you, Huda. You mentioned that you're passionate about providing quality nutritional care to your clients and teaching people how to love and listen to their bodies, which is very important. And Ramadan is just around the corner. So what are some healthy tips you would like to share with us tonight to maintain like a healthy body?
Okay, so I think the operative word in that sentence was some. So I'm just going to stick to maybe 3, if that's okay. Not that there's, a million. It's just that, even from a psychology perspective and from a self-betterment perspective, it's best to kind of just stick with a few things and then move forward from there. But I think the first thing would probably be to kind of love yourself. And I know that sounds a bit hippie and a bit cheesy, but it's really shocking, actually, especially in my practice, the amount of body image issues that rear their ugly head during Ramadan, which is fascinating because Ramadan is viewed as this wonderful month where everything is happy, it's euphoria, and no issues can ever arise. But that's actually not the case, especially when it comes to healthy eating and body image. So the first thing would be to sort of do away with the negative self-perception that can get a lot worse in the month of Ramadan, and to instead love your body and to realize that this is a bit of a difficult time. Fasting for a lot of us might not come very easy to us or very natural to us. and to instead, take it easy. The second thing would probably be to try and eat mindfully. I know it's hard to tell people to do away with certain foods during Ramadan. Ramadan for a lot of us is a time for coming together. It's a time to look forward to, and food is a really big part of that. So I'm not going to tell you to not make samosas. I love samosas. I'm Somali. I don't know if you guys could tell. And my husband's Pakistani, and we always have arguments, like fun arguments during Ramadan about which culture makes the best samosas. Spoiler alert, it's Somalis. So I know I had to say it. I know I'm surrounded by lovely, wonderful, tasty women, but I had to make my point. But I'm teasing. Yeah, don't do away with those foods. Just try to eat mindfully. And that means listening to your body, especially when you've been fasting for so many hours. It's not necessarily, I guess, Ramadan in a summertime situation this year, but it is going to be longer hours than most of you might have experienced when Ramadan was in winter. So instead of, I guess, eating really fast during iftar and suhoor, just take it easy, take some time, plan your meals, and enjoy the food that you have. And the last thing would probably be stay hydrated during the hours that you're not fasting. Try to drink water, try to space it out. If you can try to drink your water around the salah times, like Isha and right before Fajr, that would probably be a really good thing. And that would help you to feel a lot more energetic as the day goes on. Alice said that she once had a samosa-less Ramadan and it was sheer misery. Yes, I definitely agree. I think I'd lose all of my clientele if I said don't eat samosas during Ramadan. So I think that's a really good point.
I believe we're having technical difficulties with Hanan's. Are you there, Hanan? Or oh, there she is. Okay. Hanan? Okay, I guess we will just, okay, she's just coming in, but thank you very much for all of your beautiful, amazing, such an inspiring information. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I would like to, oh, there's Hanan. There you go.
Sorry. I attended a conference last week and the Prime Minister also had some technical issues and he was saying you can't pass 2021 without having technical issues. So I apologize.
No problem.
But I wanted to, thank you so much. I wanted to say thank you to Salma, Huda, and Asma and Mariam for taking the time to be with us and to share your inspiring stories. I know we went over time, but I'm pretty sure everyone enjoyed listening to your stories and insights. And as Layla mentioned, we are going to take a group photo now. So if you don't want to be in the photo, please feel free to turn off your camera. But if you want to open it, please open it. We would love to have you in this photo. And Layla, let me know when you're done taking photos. So
Sure, definitely. So can I have everybody have their camera on, those who wish to be on the photo? So look in the camera and please hold. Shabina, can you sit together? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and hold. Thank you. That's it. Huda, go ahead. It's yours. I think she's having difficulties again.
And now we are moving to our next segment. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry if I'm cutting off. I don't know, my internet is acting weird. Perfect. So we're moving now to our next segment of this event, and we are having 2 businesses, and these 2 businesses are 2 of my favorite businesses. I attended too many events and I learned so much about them, so I can't wait for you to learn about them as well. So we are joined by Rina, who is a recent Syrian newcomer arriving to Scarborough, and Rina mentioned that she received a lot of support from her community and that encouraged her to start her own local business during the pandemic. Rina is an artist and she's currently an interior designer at George Brown College. So now I'll pass it to Rina to tell us what inspired her to open this small business, and maybe Rina, tell us more about the prices and what you do in specific.
Hi, assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm very happy to be here tonight. So as what Hanan said, my name is Gina. I came to Canada in 2017 as a Syrian refugee. I improved my English here, and I'm currently interior design student at George Brown College. Actually, I started drawing since my childhood, but my love for mandala art started in 2014. So I noticed that I have the talent, but I did not do anything till I noticed that the community was supporting and motivating me to start my own business. So my business is mandala art. I'm adding into it names in Arabic and in Arabic calligraphy and English as well, like to do it more special. I'm doing also Christmas wreath, Ramadan decoration, and Mark's book, and coasters as well. So whenever I have any orders, it does not like feel it's work and I should just do it for work. But I feel like it's a way to get away from any from everything else that like stressing me out. Takes my mind away from everything, like from negativity actually. So to learn more about my business, you can visit my Instagram page. I'm so glad to be here today, and like I'm so glad that you are here to support us. And I'm looking forward to contact with you later. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks so much, Rina. This is so inspiring. And if you see at that corner, that's my piece. Like Rina created that mandala, and it's my name in Arabic. So it's beautiful. And make sure to check her Instagram and support Rina. Thanks so much, Rina, for taking
Thank
the
you so
time.
much. Thank you.
Thanks. And now introducing our next business, Basharat, who is the owner of a New Tradition store. You probably heard about the New Tradition store in media because it's an amazing initiative that started by Basharat. To tell you a little bit about the store, so they design and sell Muslim holiday inflatables. And the inspiration of this venture sparked when Basharat saw the glee in her children's eyes as they looked at the Christmas inflatable Santas and Frosties displayed across the neighborhood. So she noticed that there is an evident gap between the way Western holidays are portrayed versus the Muslim holidays such as Ramadan and Eid are viewed. So she quickly realized that they weren't the only ones that felt left out. And upon launching, they received a tremendous response from and messages from Muslims and non-Muslim families all across North America who encouraged them to do more. Basharat, over to you. You are muted, Basharat.
Thank you so much, Hanan, for this event. I am so totally inspired by all the amazing women that spoke out today. So I am the founder of New Tradition Store, and this was something that I felt the lack of as I grew up. I grew up in Canada. I think I was very young, like about, I think in grade 3, like I was 9 years old when we immigrated to Canada. And growing up over here, I was always really fascinated by the Christmas celebration and the vibes that were there. And till this day, we all enjoy it so much. I know we're all a part of it. We enjoy the lights, the decorations, and, you know, taking a walk down the Christmas market, and all these things are just, as Canadians, that's something we also kind of take part in. And growing up, we were always told that this is not something we celebrate, and that we celebrate Ramadan and Eid. But when I looked at Ramadan and Eid, there was that gap that we were not showcasing our joy that we experienced during Ramadan in the same way that others were for other holidays. And now that I have my own children, they are equally as fascinated. And when they ask me about these, and, you know, I think that it's a really great way and something that is much needed. And upon launching, we quickly realized we weren't the only ones that felt that way. There were so many Muslim families that were feeling the gap over there. And we're so happy that we're able to work to bring this to the community. It is totally a community-driven business, and we keep going because we're hearing that feedback from the Muslim community all across North America, actually. So it's been a really great experience. And I've gotten in touch with a lot of community organizations. And one of the very interesting questions that somebody asked me, if this is something that will cause negative racist like backlash. And that was really, really interesting for me. And I got thinking, because I did receive a couple of people who were a little reluctant on buying these, is because they were living in communities where these would not be viewed positively. And that, I thought, is a serious concern, us living in Canada, that if there are other holidays that are able to, showcase their joy on the outside of their house, then Muslims, Ramadan is just as big for us and our families. So, that's a serious concern that would definitely need to be addressed if it does happen. But the whole point of us bringing these to the market was to kind of break those barriers and to raise awareness for our holidays, the Muslim holidays that our families are celebrating, and to share that joy with the rest of the community, whether they celebrate Ramadan or Eid or not. Because us as Muslims, we don't celebrate Christmas, but we still enjoy when all these things are displayed outdoors, and we take part in the whole cultural aspect of it. So I think that bringing this to the North American market for Ramadan decorations was a really big gap that existed, and we were addressed as well by so many people who were, customers for our products.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Basharat. And I thank you because for me, I really found it very interesting and very needed for me and for my siblings, because when I came to Canada 5 years ago, I didn't have family and friends, so I didn't really feel the vibe of Eid or Ramadan. So this at least give the kids the vibe, but also I enjoy it. Like I just enjoy seeing like the Christmas tree. So this is something I was looking forward. So thanks so much for doing that. And again, please make sure to check the New Tradition store. They're also on Instagram at the same name. And if you want Basharat to add the link to the chat and Rina as well, so we can quickly click and check the pages. Thanks for taking the time to join us. And now we are moving to our final segment of this event, which is a cooking segment. It's a chicken cheese kebab. I'll be hungry while watching the video, but I'll introduce them now, by Zoya Imran and Shabina Jabin. They're not here with us tonight, but we are going to display their video. So I'll be reading the bios before we go ahead and watch the video. So Shabina Jabin lives in Scarborough, Ontario. She's a mom with 3 kids. She teaches Quran to kids at all ages. She loves to cook, and she's always trying to find new recipes to try at home. She tries her best to also help out in the community and as much as she can. And that being said, she also encourages you, if you are looking for home cooking services for freshly cooked and freshly baked meals, to contact her because she started a small business called Rizq Halal, and she would love you to try out some of her receipts. You can always text and call her at 647-704-2656, or you can send her an email at Shabina, SHABEENA@hotmail.com. I'll add them while we're watching the video, and she look forward to receiving your messages. And I would also like to introduce Zoya Imran, who is 24 years living in Scarborough, Ontario. She has been cooking since she was 15, and her passion for food and cooking has led her to start her own business and also working in the food industry. She's very excited to try and create new recipes, and also she is interested and hopes to pursue further education and career in culinary arts. So if you're looking also to try some home cooking services from Rizq Halal, please support the small business, and you can always contact by texting or calling at 437-855-0119, or you can also email them at Zoya Imran, ZOYAIMRAN 618@gmail.com. And now over to Layla so we can watch the video.
Thank you so much. Yes,
And
wonderful,
I feel
wonderful.
like everyone is hungry now. We won't keep you more.
That
But
was
thank
so
you.
good. Does Huda approve?
I more than approve. I actually want to
Okay.
contact them so I can maybe
Okay.
order a few.
I had
Nice.
to ask you.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you so
That's
much. Thank you. So, Hanan, thank you very much for being our Master of Ceremonies. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We have our slide in here with our information with how you can contact with us. Please join us and write to us. We are on Facebook. Please like us. And if you have any questions or anything, this is how you can reach us. And again, thank you, each one of you, for coming tonight and being part of this event. And hopefully we'll have more other events where you can come and watch this chapter grow. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so
Good
much.
night.
Bye-bye.